Have you ever noticed that the more you talk about a problem, the more stuck you feel? It's as if the more times you tell other people about it, the more times that you repeat to yourself what's happened or what the situation is or how stuck you feel, the more anxious, stuck or even overwhelmed you start to feel. And of course, the problem is the more overwhelmed we feel, the more we lose contact with our logical thinking, and therefore it's as if the worrying disconnects us even more from our ability to know what to do. And that's a problem when we're stuck, because how do we access knowing what to do? How do we access a calmer state of mind? And that's why I use metaphor, because rather than talking about the problem, in fact, rather than even thinking about the problem, we're sending it on a coffee break. We're putting it to one side. We're saying, we'll come back to you later. And we're not ignoring it, but we're just saying, for the time being, the one thing that's most important is for me to feel less overwhelmed, less anxious, calmer, and then I'll know what to do. And one way to do that I've discovered, is using metaphor, because we're just looking at patterns. So you'd look at the tide and you'd talk about perhaps timing. When's the right time to do something? Or uncovering. It's like we might be looking for solutions at high tide, and they're only going to become uncovered. The solutions only become clear at low tide. Whatever high and low tide looks like in the situation, but it's about timing. So looking at the tide would perhaps invite us to think about timing. Or it might be about sunrise and the predictability. I talked about that in an earlier post. Or it could be the fact that we notice paths, or we've noticed dead ends. There's many ways that we can use metaphor to solve problems. You could go out for a walk and just observe the patterns in nature. It could be that you think about a situation and think about the idioms that you use, the metaphor that you're using to describe a situation, because we do it in our language all the time. You'll say, I can't see the wood for the trees, I'm stuck in a rut, I'm at a crossroads. These are all metaphors, and rather than tell me all about the crossroads that you're at and the decision you've got to make, then it'll be about, what's the crossroads look like? How big is it? How many different decisions are there? And as you'll discover as you listen to more of my posts, I don't really want to know about the situation, so I don't want you jumping into telling me what the decision is. I want you to look at the crossroads and describe the crossroads. Oh, it's a crossroads that hasn't got signposts. Oh, it's a crossroads, it's got 100 exits. Really? I've never met a crossroads in nature, out in the real world, that's got that many decisions. So it's very unlikely that if that's what you're thinking about, that's the reality of it. So I think sometimes using metaphor helps us check in with the reality, because you've said crossroads. So it's about using that metaphor, the reality of that metaphor out in nature. What does a corner look like? What are the characteristics of a corner? What are the characteristics of a crossroads? Oh, my favourite phrase, and it's the phrase that I use to describe the book, because the book's called Can't See the Wood for the Trees. If you're resonating with that idiom, with that metaphor, then I invite you to go into a wood. I invite you to draw a wood. I ask you to think about the wood. What is it about the wood that you're not able to see? Is it too many trees? Is it too big trees? Is it too many branches? Are there any paths there? What is it that would enable you, metaphorically, and I know it's in your imagination, but most people are able to answer this question. What's the wood like? What are the solutions within the wood? Might it be about getting a map? Might it be following the paths, getting to a higher vantage point? There's numerous solutions when you think about it as a metaphor. And it, as you notice, it's keeping the distance. If you were thinking of a situation, you've not thought about the situation. I've just mentioned it, you might start thinking about it now. But up till then, so push it back, send it back on the coffee break. Because what I want you to do is to really explore the solutions in the metaphor. So I don't need to know. You don't need to tell somebody else. You could take a friend on a walk and ask them about the metaphor. I had a podcast guest slot the other day with 2 ex-Marines and realised that it was giving them a language that they could talk to their friends about. That if their friend doesn't want to talk about the situation, if they don't want to talk about their situation, they can still talk about it metaphorically.